down here next to me in this lonely crowd.
He came in at me and he said, "You're annoying me." And so he came in at me this way, and right then another deputy came up right in my face, right here, and they told me, "One more time and you're out of here." And I hadn't done anything. That's when you walked right up to the front and went up to the table and said, could I have a minute to prepare myself? And she said right off the bat, "No." But she was extremely rude, venomous, angry, irritable. She was extremely biased. She right off the bat, she told you had to stay seated, and if you stood up even once, that you would be looking at going to jail, being arrested immediately. I think she said 6 months you were looking at.
I would consider the environment a hostile environment towards us.
From the minute you got in the courtroom?
From the moment the sheriffs opened the door, yeah.
And you felt that hostility from whom?
From just about everyone in the room.
Did you think they were trying to send us a message?
Definitely trying to send a message. They would not allow some things on the record. They would not allow you to have your camera. They would not allow you to have your computer. That had to stay out in the hallway. None of this makes sense. It's not a bright courtroom in there. It's dark into corners.
Did you think she was ready to put me in jail?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
For 6 months for arguing my case?
That was clear.
Do you think if a camera was in the courtroom, she would have treated me in the manner which she did?
No. No way. She was so angry with you. She took something out and put it in her mouth as if she was taking some medicine of some sort. And like 15 minutes later, she was pretty well balanced out. So I wonder what exactly she was taking.
I reached in there and seemed to be taking some kind of medication. No, I felt very oppressed. I felt scared. I felt intimidated. We were surrounded by, I think, 8 to 9 sheriff deputies at all times.
Did you feel like the sheriff's deputies and the other people in the courtroom had identified you as a friend of mine or as a witness?
Oh yes, they were very obvious about that. They were standing right at the very end of our row. I guess it's kind of like a church pew, and they had a deputy right at the end of our pew.
Most of the whole time?
The entire time, the entire 4 hours. And she helped the prosecution the entire time. She shut you down every time you tried to speak. You couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Oh.
Oh yeah, and she said, you're this close or something to getting 6 months. And she threatened to put you in jail for 6 months. Every time you would try to open your mouth to say something, they would shut you down, and so it was kind of like leaving you no option, and then you would just kind of get frustrated and push back your chair or whatever, and then the deputies would just close in on you like a bunch of thugs. And how could you even feel safe or comfortable?
Do you think a jury would ever have found me guilty based on the evidence you saw?
No, that was ridiculous.
Was it your opinion? Was it your impression that they had identified you as a friend of mine and a witness, and they were?
Oh, I certainly knew who I was, yeah.
And do you think they treated you differently than the other people in the courtroom because of that?
They tried to, yes.
And what do you mean? What did they try to do?
They initially tried some of the, to irritate me, and that didn't work.
And what would you call what they were trying to do to us in there?
Intimidation.
Do you think it's fair for the citizens to be under that kind of intimidation in a courtroom? What did it make you feel like?
No, absolutely not. It's not
former
acceptable.
Military.
I'm disgusted. As a public servant, you're supposed to serve the public. It's uncalled for. They know better. They do know better.
Intimidating a witness is a crime, isn't it?
Should be. If it's not, yes, I believe it is a crime. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I do.
But they were intimidating my witnesses in the very courtroom.
True enough.
So, I don't know if he had some kind of bulletproof vest or something, but something was obviously hard right here in his pants. And so he was sitting there just like tapping, and he was doing it like just incessantly at the end of our row, and he was doing it like irritatingly, and it was getting to be really annoying because I was trying to hear what you were saying. And so I leaned over and I said, "Shh." I said, "Could you please stop that?" I said, "It's very annoying." And he came in at me and he said, "You're annoying me." And so he came in at me this way, and right then another deputy came up right in my face, right here, and they told me, "One more time and you're out of here." And I hadn't done anything. All I did is ask them to please be quiet. And to me, I felt that they wanted to arrest me and get me out there before I even had a chance to testify.
How did you feel at that moment?
I felt angry, and I felt like I didn't know what they were going to do next. I just had to try to ignore them because I didn't know what they were going to do next.
Did you feel safe?
Not at all. I felt like I could have been arrested at any time for anything, even, at the point where the judge looked back to see what was going on with the deputy and I know that she didn't actually stop. She hesitated. But if she would have stopped the proceedings, I know for a fact it would have been me that would have been hauled out. It would not have been that deputy that was causing the disturbance.
You're on the stand, you're testifying in the courtroom in a trial.
Yes.
And when you look to me as I'm asking you the questions, representing myself,
Yes.
there's 3 empty rows pretty much behind me except one man, and he's in the front row.
Right.
Leaning up over,
Yep.
glaring
Like this.
and staring
And smiling,
and smirking.
like an evil smirking, and just gloating in the fact that, I don't know, that they thought they had some kind of big theater and all the power.
How did that make you feel? When you're trying to listen to my questions as I ask, and you see that face right behind me.
Well, it made me angry, and it made me, I thought it was very out of place. It didn't seem right. It didn't seem, it seemed like he was trying to be intimidating and try to be right in my line of sight, try to more or less destabilize what I was trying to talk about, trying to destabilize my testimony. I felt like it was, he was trying to get to me.
What, you think he was trying to get to you? So tell me, you're saying out of all the places he could have sat, it looked like he purposefully sat in a spot where he could intimidate while you testified.
Yeah, obviously he purposely sat there because the minute that we said his name and then you turned around and said, "Weak neck, I've been looking for you." And then right then he got up and like a little weasel and ran out of the courtroom.
Did it make it hard for you to answer the questions, to think clearly?
Well, I'm sure it affected the way I was testifying, or my testimony.
The whole atmosphere for the 2 hours or 3 hours
yeah.
you waited before,
Yeah.
in this stressful, oppressing, whether you're saying the sheriff seemed to be intimidating you, trying to instigate an incident.
Right.
And then you go up on the stand and you got the county sheriff, the elected sheriff, the top police officer in the sheriff's department, is positioning himself strategically so he can psychologically interfere with your thought process and make you look at him every time you try to look at me. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that was definitely, I think, well planned by them, or at least by that Sheriff Weakneck. I think that was probably well thought out on his part to interfere with our testimony, and to more or less be another source of intimidation.
But in the time when he was sitting there, leaning over the bar, they call it,
Yes.
with his face ahead of the bar, and what was his face like then? Just stick to that for me for just a second.
Just grinning the whole time. Sort of a crazy grin.
And how far from you was the judge? And she was facing the same direction as you were.
Right.
Would she have been closer to Weak Neck or farther away from Weak Neck?
Closer.
Is there any way, while she was watching me ask those questions, in your opinion, that she could have not seen his activities?
No. There's no way she could have not seen. He was making a spectacle of himself, and he was the only one in the front row, right where you were. I mean, directly behind you. And the way he was, it's just like he was wanting to stand out. He was wanting to be noticed. He was wanting to insert himself right there at that place and time.
In your line of vision, particularly.
Yes.
That's what you said.
I believe. I can't imagine any other reason why he would be there.
Did you know that intimidating a witness is a crime in Pennsylvania?
No.
You were a witness there, weren't you?
Yes.
You showed up to be a witness?
Yes.
Do you feel they intimidated you?
Yes.
Did it impact your testimony?
Yes.
Your ability to think clearly?
Definitely.
Were you frightened for me by the intimidation you saw me undergoing the entire time?
Yes. Most definitely.
Did you think I might go to jail at any second?
Yeah. I thought they wanted to throw you in jail.
And that
For
certainly...
6 months. It didn't feel comfortable at all. I mean,
Well,
I
just-
was in fear not only of you being arrested, but us too, just for being with you.
You think a jury would have ever found me guilty of those charges with the testimony you heard?
No, not a chance.
Based on your experience in Berks County, do you think anyone who's accused of a crime or any citizen is safe inside of the Berks County Courthouse?
No. No. No way.
You think they'll break the law or do whatever it takes?
Absolutely. You know, from what I've seen, yes.
Is there any law in Berks County? Have you seen any?
No.
And it makes you angry as a citizen, very angry, to think that we're paying our tax dollars for these arrogant bullies to just push the citizens around. Is unbelievable. We really do need to have some cameras in the courtrooms of Pennsylvania.